This video is on cover letters, how to format them, and the content. So the first part we start with is the header. And if you look, there is a sample formatted cover letter that you can pull up and follow along. The header is your name, your address, your personal email, and your cell phone number that goes at the top of the page. It should match the header that's on your resume. And your name should be a little bigger than the rest. You could bold it so that it stands out. One thing is your email should be your name and should be from a general email account like Gmail or Yahoo. I don't suggest you use Ferris just in case Ferris decides that after you graduate, you don't have that email anymore. Plus, once you get out in the real world, people don't check their Ferris email. Underneath the header is the date, which is 2 spaces down. And this should reflect when you actually typed and mailed close to the mailing date of your cover letter. Sometimes people make a bunch of cover letters and then they don't send them out for a while. You want to make your letter as up to date as possible, and you use the full month name, day, and year. Next is the inside address, and this is who you are sending the cover letter to. So it's their contact name and their title, the agency name like Big Rapids Public Safety, the address, city, state, and zip. Next is the subject line, which is designated by RE, which is Latin meaning in the matter of. For a cover letter, you ultimately put the position name and the position number. So as the example shows, correctional officer position number 3124. Just a side note, sometimes they hire several people at once, and each position will have a different number. You want to apply for each position that has a different number. What this means is that when human resources looks, they will only consider the people that applied for a position. So, for example, correctional officer position 3124, I apply for that. But there's also a 3125 and 3126. The people that applied for 3124 are very strong, and I'm the second selection. They can't automatically move me to the next correctional officer position at 3125. They only can consider the ones that applied for that position. Next is the salutation, which we use dear, and you want to find out who is going to read the letter. So this might require you to make a phone call, find out how it's correctly spelled. Don't use generic greetings like to whom it may concern. And in the case of women, use Ms. unless you are certain they're a Miss or a Mrs. The most important part is the body. The first paragraph is a little shorter, and it introduces you by telling what position you're applying for and then where you heard about the position. So I am applying for the police officer position that I read about in the Grand Rapids Press. Then you follow this up with a sentence or two of why you are interested in the position, and make it interesting and fresh, relevant, so that it grabs the attention of the reader. The second paragraph, or second and third paragraphs, are really summarizing your resume and the characteristics that you have that this job needs. And so our first assignment was a discussion board where we were doing a pretend job ad. And this was to get you used to writing about the characteristics that you have that transfer to the position. Go back, look at your discussion board, particularly the responses from the other students, to see if there's any changes or additions that you need. The next 1 or 2 paragraphs are showing that you know what the employer needs, and a lot of that is from the job description for the job you're applying. And then you show how you connect to those needs by your own skills and characteristics. And finally, you can use examples to bolster these. And ultimately, this should strengthen and support your resume. There are 2 kinds of skills that they referred to, hard skills and soft skills. Hard skills really are ones that, like, you get a certificate. Your hard skill is going to be a bachelor's degree. If you went through the corrections track, you're MCOTC certified, and so that is a hard skill. If you have computer skills, again, you should all be proficient in Microsoft Office, and you've used it for 4 years. But also job skills that are hard would be things that you can quantify. For example, that you have good leadership skills and you worked at TJ Maxx, and you can show that you increased sales by so much money. That would be showing a hard skill. I have leadership, and this is what I've done. Most of us talk about our soft skills, and they're not as easily quantified. But you want to give examples that you have these skills. So, effective communicator, you might talk about that you worked at McDonald's and you were able to resolve disputes where both the customer and your managers were happy. So you want to give examples and use a variety of both. The final paragraph in the cover letter really is a conclusion and an invitation for whoever's reading it to read your resume and to consider you for an interview. So it should show that you're confident, but you don't want to be seen as cocky or even overly confident. You summarize your qualifications as they are specified towards the position, and then you might say that please review my attached resume, and I look forward to hearing for you. Don't ask them, or don't do this, I will call you next week and set up an interview. That is cocky and too confident. But leave it that you're interested and you want to know what the next step is. Then we have what's called a complimentary closing. And for business letters, we use sincerely, respectfully submitted, or respectfully. Even if you have a close relationship, let's say the chief is your uncle, I would still use the professional rather than a more friendly term like regards or best wishes. 4 spaces underneath the closing, then you type your name. And it should be the same as what's at the top of your resume. So if you use your middle name, you're going to type your full name, and then you're going to sign in between the closing and the typed name. You have some options. You can write after your name, 2 spaces down, enclosure, and this is showing that there's attachments. It could be resume, letters of recommendation, certifications, whatever the job ad needed you to send in. So it would look like enclosure resume. Don't type EX. Another option is a postscript. This is if you're witty. A postscript is abbreviated PS. We're used to PSs. And so they had one, P.S. I just opened the morning paper and saw the article on solving the Smith cold case. Kudos. Lets them know that you are up to date and checking on what's going on with their agency. And probably if I read that, I would say, oh, this person is keeping up with me. So that's a positive thing. So ultimately, the cover letter is really your first introduction. And I think that it is invaluable that you set it up correctly. You proofread it several times so that there's no errors, so that you can make a first impression on your potential employer.